The developers have just done an Ask Me Anything over on their Reddit, and there's some quite juicy things we need to discuss. Kings and queens, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a good day. Let's jump on into everything that was replied to in the Ask Me Anything. The first question is in response to the FOMO and the Prestige situation. In case you guys didn't know, I originally asked the community for questions to ask the developers. DBD decided to reply. One of those questions that were there basically talked about getting prestige rewards. The reply basically said we're not going to do it because we don't want to bring FOMO. A lot of people kind of got their pitchforks for this one, so this was reiterated again, basically asking for some more clarification. Dead by Daylight said that prestige and limited time content are significantly different for us, in the sense that the prestige option should always be there for all players, whereas limited content is almost always linked to seasonal events such as the anniversary, Halloween, Bone Chill, etc., which again ties back to us not wanting to clog up the inventory/store view for players when the relative season is not active. Essentially, the question was more so talking about aren't event items like FOMO and they also do clogging of inventory, etc. In my opinion, this was a little bit evasive. They didn't really want to step on any toes, and I'll get into that in a second. Someone else then replied, that is even more the reason why you should give prestige rewards. Prestige is something that players can always obtain year round. They said, we appreciate the players' passion with regards to prestige rewards. No promises, but we'll kick off discussion internally to see if something is achievable and keep you updated when or if this changes. All in all, this is what I've been saying for a very long time. I truly feel that the internal developer teams, they don't even have a solid stance on this. I feel like a lot of people in the team think that this is going to be FOMO, where a lot of people on the team think it's completely fine. So on social media, on Twitter, you might have someone saying something else, and then right here we're having Rose reply, so she's saying something completely different. In all honesty, it sounds like they're just dancing around some eggshells here. They don't want to give a solid answer on anything because truly nobody really knows what's going on. In my opinion, I think that prestige rewards are fine. It should be in the game. There should be some incentive for, really grinding and showing off your hard work, and it won't create any FOMO because it'll be there forever. But that was their response essentially to why there is no prestige cosmetics and if they'll ever do it. The next question was about auras, and they essentially confirmed that auras are sometime going to get a rework. The question says, can you provide clarity about the infamous black bubble which appears over props like gens and hooks? They basically replied, infamous indeed, though it has some disliked interplay at props and auras. The black bubble serves a purpose as it stands, and we don't have current plans to address it, but I can tell you that we have recently greenlit a rework to our aura system that we are planning to move forward with sometime soonish. It won't change the black bubble, but it should make auras better. So that's kind of interesting. I'm excited to see what they're going to do, and hopefully they test out the new beta mechanic as well to really emphasize if you want to use this or not. And hopefully if they are going to make a change to auras, it's toggleable. So if you don't like the changes, you can still use the old one. I think changes like those definitely need to have a toggle on and off options. So moving forward, I really hope that's the case. The next question is about the Sadako skins that were on mobile, and they basically said that they're trying to get the rights to get it ported over to core. That would be fantastic. I think it would be great. The Sadako and Yoichi skins that we have on Dead by Daylight Mobile are beyond this world. They're so good. Dead by Daylight does it so well on mobile when it comes down to skins. In case you guys didn't know, Dead by Daylight Mobile is owned by NetEase now, not Fully Behavior. So they make their own licensing deals and they get their own things done on their end. That's why we've seen other game modes, etc. Behavior itself, they don't really have too much control over everything. So that's why there's exclusive there and there's exclusive on our end. But since they already have worked with Dead by Daylight Mobile, they definitely could work with Dead by Daylight Core if they want to make some easy, quick cash. The next question was from Vizzy, basically asking about Frank Stone, which is their upcoming new game with Supermassive, as well as their new movie, and she wanted to know that if this is going to be focused on lore, aka, is this going to be canon? Are we going to learn some more things about the entity? And they said that, I sadly cannot disclose any of the future endeavors. Nevertheless, with what is announced, the comic, Frank Stone, the movie, the multiplayer PvE game, it's pretty clear we want to give out more of the Dead by Daylight universe. AKA, it seems that some of these things are going to be, set in the Dead by Daylight universe and probably canon and lore-wise. So if you are a lore junkie, this is fantastic. So if you love lore, this is going to be fantastic. Also, they said PvE game. I completely forgot about this, but they announced 2 games during their anniversary event. One was Supermassive and one was the PvE game. So that could be quite interesting. Can't wait to see what's going to happen with that. The next question says, what's the status of de-pipping outside of DCing since grades are not being affected by matchmaking anymore? Basically, what's the point in punishing people? They said that they've been talking about this within the team and they'll give us some more information, aka the classic answer. Honestly, I don't really think they're going to do anything with this. I honestly feel like they don't really care that much about this aspect of it, but you never know what can happen. The next question basically talks about the hidden prestige system. Essentially, there was a time where they tested if people's prestiges were hidden from everybody. They basically said that they received positive feedback from this and that they're going to do much larger scale researches. So far, no extra info. Next question is basically talking about if all of the sounds will be equalized for panthing survivors, so everyone can be normalized, so people aren't louder than each other and there's no advantage of playing different survivors. They said they're very aware of this concern and they've been recently investigating and discovered it isn't quite as straightforward as they hoped, but they're putting their detective hats on and they're digging into it further. So hopefully moving forward, all the characters will be at a normal tone and they won't basically be louder or quieter than each other when screaming, etc. I assume the difficulties that they're having is with the cadence of everybody's voices, especially if you have a more bass-orientated voice and then other characters more have a higher pitch. So it's hard to really find that equalized because it might all be the same level, but it might sound louder in certain instances. So we'll see what they end up doing. Someone asked about statistics during the endgame. This is again talking about seeing stats in DBD. We've wanted stats for a very long time, and they basically said that they don't have any plans on doing this in the endgame at the moment. The next question talks about daily rewards, and they basically said that they hope to rework the entirely daily ritual system. I have a video that's going to be coming out later this month talking about changes that they should make into the game. One of these were to the daily ritual system, and the idea and concept that I gave in that video was essentially reworking the dailies into the archives itself and having daily, weekly, and seasonal challenges. Your seasonal challenges will actually be the archives itself, all the challenges we currently have. Your weekly challenges will just be brand new weekly challenges that pop up every single week. And then your regular challenges will be your daily challenges. And you can re-roll these by using shards, and it will give you blood points and rift fragments for every single time. These two systems shouldn't be separated, in my opinion. They all should be incorporated into one. And that's where you should be getting some awesome blood points and rift fragments alike for your daily, weekly, and seasonal challenges. I think that just makes the most sense. Next on the list, someone asked, will there ever be a time and point where you can mix and match your cosmetics in the shop to see what it will look like? And then you'll know if you want to buy that piece of cosmetic. And they said, we are planning on remaking this in the future, but it's still under development. So good news, but probably will take a very, very long time. The next thing on the list, which is pretty huge, they basically asked, is there any hints about the 3-gen solution? As we know, they said that 3-genning is essentially going to be fixed. They said that the PTB will be going out in January, and they can't really say anything, but they're trying to continue to make it regular. They want it to be a normal game, and the only hint they can give us is you'll get a kick out of it. So I feel like they are planning on making it so that you can't kick generators when there's one generator left, and that can be kind of problematic. If you're a killer like the Trapper, and you take very long to set up and your only hope is towards the end game and you can't kick any generators and use any of that pressure, you're pretty much screwed. Your game's going to go by in like 3-4 minutes. I personally thought they could just add another generator, but we'll end up seeing what exactly happens. Now, there's a lot of arguments on both sides on whose fault this is and who should be punished, etc. I'm not here to debate that. The fact of the matter is they're going to be making a solution to 3-genning, and if their solution is that you're not able to kick generators at the end, it's going to be pretty bad. So we'll see exactly what they end up doing. We'll find out in January. Next thing on the list is talking about FOV, and next thing on the list is something I also mentioned in my video that you'll see later on, and it's talking about, will there ever be a time where we can see survivors build before the game starts? And they said they've thought about this, but they're restricted due to the flexibility in the lobby screens. We're updating these old screens gradually, and you should see some improvement over the next years. I mean, it sucks because it will take a very long time. I assume this was never on their priority list, and with so many things already planned for this year, it's gonna take a hell of a lot of time for them to get it done. It just sucks that it's gonna take so long. Maybe one day it'll be greenlit and we'll see some things happening. Next thing on the list talks about anniversary chapters being originals, or will they ever be licensed? And they said that the only rule is that there's no rules. So you never know what can happen. I feel like this year we've been spoiled with a lot of licensed content. So if we are going to see another legendary content, it might be in the anniversary. I think from now until the anniversary, in my opinion, we're only going to be seeing original content in the form of new chapters. New skins, things like that. 100% we'll see tons of more legendary stuff and licensed stuff. And I don't think we'll see anything until the anniversary, which definitely could be a big Stranger Things kind of DLC, in my opinion. We'll see. Next on the list, they were talking about the Twins rework, and they were talking about adjusting the slugging meta. Essentially, they said that they're going to make a way that Twins won't be able to slug as much, and it encourages more playstyles. We're going to have to see what that entails. Hopefully they don't butcher this. They've been working on this Twin rework for such a long time, and they still have so much time to go. And I really hope they don't butcher this, because they've really taken their time with this, and I'll be so disappointed if they just make it so that when Victor jumps on your head, you get deep wound. That will be so uninspired. So we'll see what ends up happening. Hopefully something good happens. Next on the list, someone asked about reconnecting as a human player. Games like Apex Legends has this, where if you accidentally disconnect, you can reconnect. They said it's not on their roadmap at the moment, but it's a topic they constantly bring back to the team. No promises, but this might be something in the future. So we'll see what ends up happening. Next on the list, someone asked about the Sadako rework, and they basically said that they're going to try to make Sadako where she was. Essentially, they're not really happy with the changes they made. They try to make Condemn more relevant, but in the process, they made it pretty bad for Unreal players. So they're not going to revert it, but they're essentially going to bring it back to what it was. So we will see. Next on the list, they were talking about a gifting system. This is another thing I talked about in my video, which you'll see later. I'm happy they're actually tackling a lot of these questions. And they said there's a lot of complications with a gifting system that they need to address, such as regional pricing, fraud prevention, friend spam, but it's not off the table, aka this probably won't happen. There's too much for them to really consider, and this won't be something on their priority list for a very long time. Next on the list, they talked about FOV sliders, which is really exciting. And all they said was that the FOV slider will only affect first person, not survivors, and not someone like Chucky, only the killers that are playing in first person. So that's pretty cool. Next on the list, someone asked if they will ever bring back old maps for older chapters, essentially. So let's say the Trickster, for example, will they ever bring a Neon City? And I said, absolutely. You know, maps are tricky, but this is something that's on their radar. Not promised. Personally, I feel like it really has to be a big drought season for them to do this. Like, if there's 3 chapters in a row where we don't get a map, they'll be like, okay, let's revisit an old chapter and bring back a map. So if we get more licenses like Chucky, for example, that don't necessarily have a map, and we get them back to back to back, they'll have the time and the resources to revisit that. But if that's not lined up, constantly making another map, I just don't see it happening, theoretically. The last thing on the list, they basically asked, a lot of people have questions about this from yesterday's video. Now that the cosmetics are 50% off, will they go lower than that? And they said, yes, this is now the new base price. So you could potentially see these going for 1,000 shards, 2,500 shards, whatever the case may be. So that is quite exciting. But there we go, everyone. That is pretty much all of the questions that were answered, at least the significant ones. And I hope you guys did enjoy. I'll leave the full post down below so you can check it out yourself. As always, that's going to do it for me. I'm your host, The King. I did my crown to you guys, and we'll see you in the fog. Don't forget, tomorrow is the Bone Chill event, and we're giving away Chucky DLC codes on Twitch, twitch.tv/theking. See you there.